Hello friends, welcome back to the series in which we are trying to explain you the important editorials or the important topics for your civil services examination. And today I am trying to bring multiple articles from different newspapers at one place so that it can become more holistic and more beneficial for your preparation. So the topic that is in news is that Sri Lanka has banned the Chinese research ships, and there is a buzz that because India tried to make Sri Lanka understand that this can be a security issue if the Chinese vessels are allowed to have some kind of surveillance in the Indian Ocean. So Sri Lanka agreed to it. Now let's try to understand this topic in a more holistic manner and more comprehensive manner. So guys, the news is that the Chinese ship, particularly Yang Hong 3, has been now not allowed by Sri Lanka, and at least for a year. This is a smart balancing kind of a strategy on part of Sri Lanka, right? So let's try understand the topic. If we have to cover this topic in a multiple in a way which cover the multiple needs of this exam, let's try understand. We must know the circumstances leading to the decision on part of Sri Lanka. The issue is Chinese research activities are increasing in the area, for which India has shown its concerns. Sri Lanka balanced the act by asking Chinese authority to at least not do it for a year so that India can find a solution or the global community can find a solution. And this is Yang Hong 3 incident which is in news. It has some immediate implications. What are the immediate implications? Geopolitical realignment in the region. I will explain it in the coming slides. Setback for China, because China was having a lot of confidence that we have strong hold in the region and all these smaller players are like the puppets in the hands of China and China hold the string for them. Then this is a boost for India, that India could convince Sri Lanka to not fall into the trap of the Chinese. And there is going to be some kind of economic uncertainty in the region because China is one of the largest debtor, the country that give debt to the smaller nations in the region. Then there are going to be some short-term implications like increased tension in the region because of China being denied. China will try to arm twist. Then there is the issue of regional security in the Indian Ocean region. Then there is diplomatic maneuvering like how China, India, Sri Lanka, and yes, even Maldives will now be reacting or acting against or in favor of this. Then we will have some kind of long-term implications like a new maritime order is to emerge. Then there will be geopolitical competition in the region, reshaping regional alliances. This is very important, and many of these things will be there in your prelim exam or in your mains and even in your interview. Then implications for India. It has the implication of enhanced security, leadership role and economic opportunities. So we will try to cover it for the civil services exam from all three dimensions: pre, mains and interview, right? I hope you are liking this series. So I would request you to please let us know that how and what more you want us to do. Please do comment on these videos, subscribe to the channel and try motivate us to help you better. So moving forward, if we talk about the circumstances leading to the decision, let's try understand the story here, how the story unfolds. So Chinese research activities in the region. China has been increasingly active in this region by deploying research vessels in the Indian Ocean, raising concerns from India and Sri Lanka about their true purpose. Now, what exactly is China trying to do in the Indian Ocean? So first of all, we need to understand that this Indian Ocean, if you have seen my previous video in which I was talking about the choke points, so this is basically a very, very important part of the sea lane of communication and commerce. So when China enters into this region, there are two things that weigh very heavy on Indian mind, and not just Indian mind but on the mind of all the global players. So something that is the first thing that is important here, it is about the security of the sea lanes of communication, and secondly that India feels more vulnerable because of the Chinese policy of string of pearls, right? I hope you know this idea, Chinese string of pearls. Now what this idea of Chinese string of pearls is, So if China sits here, from that Pakistan occupied Kashmir, they have brought the Karakoram highway. In Pakistan, they have developed the Gwadar port. In then Sri Lanka, they have developed the Hambantota port, and in Bangladesh, they have developed the Chittagong port, to talk about some of the more important, and this atolls in Maldives. So China is trying to encircle India, because of which India has natural and genuine security concerns. So these vessels are suspected of conducting intelligence gathering, mapping seabed features and tracking Indian military activities. So India is more concerned for all these things. Then India's concerns are valid and genuine. India has expressed strong reservation about Chinese research activities in its vicinity, like why China is moving in this area, particularly near the strategically important Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And Prime Minister Modi then urged Sri Lankan President Wickremesinghe to respect Indian security concerns. It was back in July 2023. Then Sri Lanka very smartly balanced the thing. Sri Lanka, caught between its economic dependence on China and its strategic ties with India, has often faced a difficult balancing act. But this time, when the Yang Hong 3 incident happened in December 2023, China requested permission for the ship to conduct research in Sri Lankan waters, potentially extending into Maldivian waters. This request further heightened Indian anxiety. So India once again expressed its concern to Sri Lanka, and the results are in front of us. So what are the immediate implications of this geopolitical realignment? Sri Lanka's decision signals a potential shifts in its foreign policy, placing greater emphasis on its relations with India and West. And when we talk about West here, what we need to understand, USA and its allies, the allies of USA, Europe, Western Europe. So West is USA and its allies, right? Setback for China. The ban represents a significant setback for China's ambition to expand its maritime influence in the Indian Ocean. So China was trying to be here. This region is very important. There are transport corridors, there are surveillance facilities, and then there are commercial naval bases. So there is lot of commercial activities, intelligence and maritime security activities going on in this dimension. In this map, you will see that China's string of pearls in a more elaborate manner, so that you can understand it. Obviously, yes, this PPT, link to this PPT will be there along with the video, and I will also be putting this on my Twitter handle, X handle, so that you guys can download it and properly read and understand the concept here, right? This is boost for India. The decision strengthens India's strategic position in the region and reinforces its role as a security provider. Now the smaller countries in the Indian Ocean Rim region, they will be more relying on India's strategic influence. Then economic uncertainty. The ban may have negative economic consequences for Sri Lanka in particular, because China is the major investor and donor for Sri Lanka. Now short-term implications. Increased tensions. The immediate aftermath could see heightened tensions between China and Sri Lanka, potentially impacting bilateral trade and investment. But here India has to play very smart, and India has to ensure that the interests of Sri Lanka are not jeopardized at all. Then there is concern for regional security. The ban is likely to increase India's security cooperation with Sri Lanka and in other Indian Ocean nations, and the diplomatic maneuvering is going to be very, very crucial here. China will likely attempt to use diplomatic channels to pressurize Sri Lanka to reconsider the ban. What we need to understand here is that this broad Indian Ocean region and all these smaller island countries and all these places here, they are of very, very geostrategic significance, of great geostrategic significance, and India cannot lose its goodwill with these countries, and India cannot let China have more presence and more influence in this region. That will be very, very threatening for India's security concerns. The long-term implications, new maritime order. The decision could contribute to emergence of a new maritime order in the Indian Ocean, with India playing a more prominent role. Now, when we talk about more prominent role, this quad that includes USA, Australia, Japan and India. Now, this will be very, very important. This quad is going to be something that is very important. Geopolitical competition. The ban is likely to intensify geopolitical competition between China and the West in the region. So India is to play a very smart role here, that we are not seen as the puppets of the West, and we are having our own dignified position in the Indian Ocean, to which we are worthy enough. Reshaping regional alliances. The decision may lead to the formation of new regional alliances based on shared security interest. Now, if we try understand what kind of regional alliances are there and what are there in the prospects in future. So let's look at this. We have Quad, and Quad includes India, USA, Japan and Australia. The focus is Indo-Pacific security, counter-piracy, disaster relief and free trade. This is particularly the free trade that makes them come together against China, because China, as it has been and it is very assertive and aggressive in South China Sea, East China Sea. So China is also trying to be very proactive in Indian Ocean, and Indian Ocean is the soul of the sea lanes of communication. So all they have come together to ensure that the freedom of trade is not threatened. If we talk about the examples of cooperation, we have Malabar naval exercises, humanitarian aid in island nations and vaccine distribution during the COVID time. Then there is Colombo Security Conclave, CSC. It includes India, Sri Lanka, Maldives and Mauritius. This is again very important. It talks about regional maritime security, counter-terrorism and cyber security. We have joint Coast Guard patrols, information sharing training exercises. Then there is IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association. There are 23 littoral states of the Indian Ocean Rim. They talk about economic cooperation, maritime safety and security and sustainable development, information sharing on illegal fishing, joint research and rescue operations, capacity building. These are the things that these organizations are trying to do. These are very formally organized alliances. Then we have some informal partnerships as well. For example, France, India, where maritime security cooperation, defense technology transfer, joint naval exercises, sharing best practical practices in underwater warfare, intelligence exchange. Similarly, we have Seychelles, India, Vietnam, India, Indonesia, India. So here is the report that you can read yourself. So these are some of the informal partnerships. Then there are some regional initiatives as well, like Recap Information Sharing Center. There are 21 countries in Asia and the Pacific. And then there is Western Indian Ocean Maritime Security Architecture. 22 countries bordering the Western Indian Ocean. They come together to hold some exercises. Then we have Quad Plus. So the original 4 members, India, USA, Japan and Australia, then included Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines and others. This is expanding regional cooperation on maritime security, infrastructure and economic development, and workshops on maritime law enforcement, joint infrastructure project, disaster preparedness initiatives. These are the focus areas, right? Now, what are the implications for India? As we understand that Indian Ocean is the busiest SLOC. So, enhanced security. The ban on the Chinese vessels strengthen India's security perimeter and provides greater strategic depth. It also creates the leadership role for India in the region, and economic opportunities emerge for India because India can leverage its strategic position to attract investments and boost its economic ties with Sri Lanka and other Indian Ocean nations. So this is a great opportunity for India. Now, if I talk about the extent of Chinese pressure on Maldives' decision to deny India access to military base or naval base, so it is kind of hypothesis that China is trying to manipulate Maldives to not be friend with India. So what are the factors that indicate Chinese pressure? The economic dependence. Obviously, yes, Maldives is heavily reliant on Chinese tourism and investment. So what is the strength of evidence? It is very high because economic dependence creates leverage that China can use to influence Maldivian decisions. Then there are political ties. China has cultivated close political ties with the Maldivian government, offering diplomatic support and aid. In 2018, Maldives signed Belt and Road Initiative agreement with China. Similarly, there is military presence. China has established a military presence in Indian Ocean with a naval base in Djibouti and increased naval patrols. This is putting some more pressure on the smaller countries. Then there is debt trap diplomacy of China, giving a lot of money. Some argue that China's loans and investment could trap the Maldives in debt cycle, making them more reliant on China. The strength of the evidence is low. Maldives debt to GDP ratio is still manageable. Then counter arguments are there. The Maldives has consistently denied being pressurized by China. The Maldivian government has stated its commitment to a neutral foreign policy and maintaining good relations with all partners. So we can say that to some extent it is possible that the decision comes because of Chinese influence. Now, if we talk about India's geostrategic, economic, commercial and maritime interest in this region, the most important things that one should know here is, if we talk geostrategic, so China's growing presence in the Indian Ocean, expanding its military and economic infrastructure in Sri Lanka, Maldives and other Indian Ocean rim nations, increased naval activity including near Indian coasts, Pakistan's continued support for terrorism, uncertainty in Afghanistan, these are some of the major concerns for India. But when I talk about China, rise of non-state actors and then cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, dispute on maritime borders, competition for resources, and the best example in this case will be China's construction of a research station in Maldives, Makandua Atoll, which has potential for dual use military applications, increased Chinese surveillance capabilities in Indian Ocean rim. Similarly, Pakistan's close ties with China, Afghanistan's fragile political situation, all these things are weighing very heavy on the minds of the policy makers in India. Then when we talk about economics, trade dependence on China, fluctuations in global commodity prices and China's Belt and Road Initiative, which can lead to global trade wars. Cyber attacks on financial institutions are another concern, natural disasters in the region and internal security challenges, for example Naxalism and insurgency in some parts, particularly in the northeast of India. Commercially, the vulnerability of maritime trade routes, competition in key sectors, lack of skilled workforce, inadequate infrastructure are some of the major concerns for India. Uncertainty in global trade agreements, rise of protectionism in key markets, cyber attacks on critical business infrastructure are some of the minor concerns. Examples, one of the best here will be China's growing presence in the Indian Ocean and uncertainty in the legal framework for maritime trade. Now, these are some of the more important, crucial things that India need to keep in mind. Now, maritime, particularly while securing the vital sea lanes, it is one of the main concerns, and to develop naval capabilities, strengthening maritime infrastructure, cooperation with regional partners is another concern that India is now focusing on. Now, when we talk about UPSC Civil Services exam, in prelims, current affairs, international relations, geopolitics, Indian Ocean security. Now, look at the map, the places that I have mentioned, the maps that I've shared. Be ready, there can be a question on any of these in your pre. When we talk about mains, India's foreign policy, Indo-Sri Lanka relations, maritime security challenges in the Indian Ocean, these are some of the important topics that can be there in 2024. And for this year interview, personality test, analytical thinking, about the problem solving skills, understanding of India's strategic priorities in Indian Ocean, these are some of the things that you should have in mind. I hope these videos are helping a lot, and in case you appreciate them, do comment and let us know, and we are committed to deliver the best for the students. Thank you. God bless you.